All right, I'm so sure right now you already know that when you hear that 16, that signifies that we're already on. And today being Wednesday, the 3rd day of July 2024, today being Wednesday, it's The Viewpoint. And today I want us to take a look at what is really happening across the country, but to scale it a bit further and look at ourselves internationally speaking. We have the protests happening across the country for the 3rd week now, but what does that really mean for Kenya? We are a member of different bodies internationally, but how important, the keyword, how important are these protests that we are experiencing? On set, I have Judge Kithi, who is an advocate of the High Court, joining me on set. I've got Sossion, who is a former NAT SecGen and also former nominated member of parliament. He's also a CS. But I didn't see his name on the pay rise, and I say that with confidence. Why?
I am not on the payroll.
But you're a CS.
I am not on the payroll.
You'll tell us why. Honorable Allan, Sila, Kithome, who is a governance and a political expert. Welcome to the program, as well as engineer Crispus Wathimba, who is also leadership and governance expert. Gentlemen, asante sana for coming.
Thank you.
None of you is a Gen Z.
At heart, yes.
I see what you mean there.
Yeah.
I see what you mean. Does that apply to all of you?
But in terms of age, we fall to the different categories. I'm Gen X myself. I'm a proud Gen X.
Kithome, are you a Gen Z at heart?
At heart, yes. I am millennial there.
Yes.
Yes, so you can be sure. And we're invited, so looks like we are part of this.
So you're part and parcel of Gen Z?
Yeah.
I don't know whether you are part of Gen Z.
I associate myself
at heart.
I associate myself with their cause, and I understand what they are going through.
Right.
And at heart, definitely, we are together with the Gen Z.
Yes.
Yes.
It has never happened in our country. And I believe all of you are also learning something out of it. Perhaps in the coming days or in future, we'll have a story to tell. Perhaps the future generation or even what will be happening in the coming days. Gentlemen, let me take you through the front page of the local dailies. Preacher first, 6 on police radar over youth demos. That is what we have on the front page of the Daily Nation. 6 on police radar over youth demonstration. We had that yesterday, and now there's some sort of shutdown where schools, courts, and businesses remain closed as foreign envoys warn their citizens. Now, this is in line with what you're going to be discussing today. Remember, Prime Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi also called on the international community to stand with Kenya at this particular point. Are their sponsors? Detectives have listed 6 prominent politicians, 2 NGOs, and a businessman as being behind the wave of violent demonstrations across the country. This even as the anti-tax protests entered the 3rd week and morphed from mostly peaceful processions to deadly confrontations, laced with vandalism and theft of goods and property. We'll be taking a look at that. MPs, CSS get a pay rise amid tax pain. Again, that is what is here. I wish I took you through this, but a quick one. The Prime Cabinet Secretary, Cabinet Secretaries, Attorney General, Head of Public Service, and Secretary to the Cabinet will pocket 990,000 shillings from 957,000 shillings. Governors will get 990,000 shillings from 957. MPs and senators will pocket 739,000 shillings from 725,502. MCAs will now pocket 164,588, up from 154,481. That is just but a cross-section. You can take a look at that story. On the inner pages is just pictorial of what really happened yesterday. But gentlemen, what we saw yesterday is not, so to speak, Gen Z-like. But before that, okay, what do you make of that headline? And then you connect it. We saw over 20 coffins being dropped in the CBD. I mean, was that Gen Z-like?
Well, I do think that at the very inception of these protests, there was good faith. The good faith in terms of the cause that the protesters and the demonstrators had engineered. It was a path that was well taken. And I think the consistency and the persistence of the demonstrators yielded on account of the fact that the government yielded ground. And what was then the confrontation then was the finance bill that had not been signed into law, and the same was returned back to Parliament, being the constant that we have now. But then immediately after that cause was determined in the manner that it was, there seems to be grievances that now were the outliers at the time, that have now taken, have folded into the main cause as to governance issues. Those then seem to have mutated away from the protagonists, the prime movers of the protagonism there, the Gen Zs, into another category of who will be dissatisfied members of society. And I think that then is the advent of the reorganization and funders from the politicians, businessmen, and all those that will have other different grievances other than the first cause. Meaning, therefore, they patch over and basically the movement, as well, the Gen Z movement, and take advantage of that. They obviously may have good reasons for that, that were not the clarion call surrounding the budget issue, the finance bill issue. They may have their own political differences or issues that were probably bottled at the time that we want to settle now. But the means upon which they are using, and definitely these are not the Gen Z movement, is that they've gone back to the normal culture of demonstrations that we've experienced over time in this country. Being that you demonstrate, but with a disruptive environment, as will be to injure, hurt, maim, otherwise basically destroy property. And that is basically what we've seen, including immediately after elections this time round. So that culture of demonstration being a culture associated with other generations, other than the Gen Zs, is what we are now experiencing. And I do think, therefore, it is right to say that there has been infiltration and there's an attempt to take over the cause of the Gen Zs for other political reasons.
Should the government be worried about the infiltration? Because what we are seeing, Wakili, you've correctly put it, thank you for that, but then should the government be worried about the infiltration?
Extremely,
and how will it affect the initial plan of the Gen Z strike or protest?
Yeah, the government is extremely worried because the responsibility of protecting property and protecting lives is a mandate of government, and lives have been threatened, lives have been lost, property is being destroyed, there's wanton violence and destruction everywhere, the way we see. So they've grown out of the normal demonstrations that are envisaged in the Constitution, Article 37, into violence. Looking at the headlines, the detectives zeroed down to 6 politicians being responsible for sponsoring and individuals who have infiltrated these demonstrations. And you see, when you talk of the demonstrations of Gen Zs being infiltrated, it's something that we cannot wish away. It's something that we need to empirically examine and flag out and allow the detectives to do their work and get to the bottom of it. The initial intention, which a government has not been and is never opposed to, peaceful demonstrations, has been overtaken by violence. And we saw last week breaking of the perimeter fence of Parliament, invading the presence of Parliament, something that has never happened before, burning of property inside Parliament, and vandalizing of property inside Parliament, including vandalizing even equipment at the media center. And you know those equipment are so expensive. So really, was that really the objective of Gen Zs, to engage in destruction? Gen Zs simply intended to communicate a message. But criminals, individuals, hijack the process and engage in vandalism and violence. Burning of the City Hall and the burning of the office of the Chief Justice. I don't think anybody would really say, yes, that is right, it's not what was expected. any demonstrations should be peaceful. And the message, and demonstrators will always try to ensure that the message they are communicating comes out clearly in a peaceful manner and in a convincing way, which of course the message of the Gen Zs has been picked clearly by the president. And the president took a bold decision to refer the bill back to Parliament with recommendation of deletion of all the clauses and with a commitment of developing a national dialogue framework, a national conversation on the economy, and with a commitment to engage the Gen Zs deeply and extensively. And that I know the president and government is working on frameworks to engage the Gen Zs exclusively themselves. But we have seen opportunists, political opportunists, even in those X spaces, masquerading to get into the space of and to organize the Gen Zs. And we know these are political individuals. We know them by name, and they are pushing their own agenda. And those sponsoring the event, you look at the coffins. Somebody must have gone to buy.
How much is a coffin?
Coffin.
I mean, it's expensive.
It's expensive.
We've all been in these spaces.
Yeah, the Gen Zs cannot buy coffins.
Expect
I don't
Gen
think
Z to get 20
we
of
did not
them
see the Gen Zs in that space.
in a lorry and all that.
Organizing to buy coffins.
Yeah.
But we know coffins. Those coffins were bought by the sponsors. There are those political individuals who have personal issues with the government. So they've been infiltrated this process to try and heighten it and to try and demonize the person of the president,
yes.
Which I think is wrong. Here, we should have stuck to issues. And you see, at the end of the day, as outlined in Vision 2030, we should sanitize our politics so that they are issue-based. And that is what the Gen Zs have been pushing. So really, we must draw now a dichotomy between issues that have been raised by Gen Zs that are genuine and that needs to be addressed by government, and it is being addressed expeditiously by the president, and criminal activities related with this.
Thank you. I hear you. But Honorable Allan, let me ask you, even when the president spoke over the weekend, and now we are seeing an upsurge of what is called to be perceived to be goons, alleged goons who are now coming out, and I'm also going to read a statement which was put out there by Kithome, who is the Cabinet Secretary for Interior and National Administration. He also sent a message and gave a statement to that. How much should the Gen Z be worried?
First thing first, condolences to the families that lost their loved ones. I pray they will be okay. Now, first thing first, and I want to start from where these things are starting from. Now, when we went to campaign last year, you know,
last year but one.
Right. The government, I mean, by then, the KK went across the country in all regions, taking views from the citizen on what citizen would want the government to do. And, well, everybody gave their views, and they were looking at the Nyanza region, they were looking at Eastern region, and all the regions. And they put these things together to come up with the manifesto and the agenda that they are going to lead the government. Now, you know, there were good things and sweet things in the manifesto. But when the government sat on the table, what they found, things were not like that. First, there was dollar issues. We had no dollar in the country. There was forex issues. You know, there was subsidy that they believed were wrong. And many more issues that were coming there. And then there were, you know, the coffers, there were nothing. So I think somewhere down the line, things were not matching the agenda and the speed in which they wanted to deliver to the citizen. And now they started, you know, doing other things. So one thing which was lacking from onset was the communication. I think there has been an issue, you know, this is supposed to be bottom-up communication, and there's been an issue. The citizens are far from the government. Looks like that communication has not come to the citizen. Now, you see, the pressure is boiling on the citizen. People are having troubles. We don't have food. Actually, mostly Kenyans today, like we are living on debts. You have to borrow to buy food. So coming to your point is, when the finance bill came, many people in Kenya did not understand what was there. What is this thing we are calling, housing levy? Is it a levy? Is it a saving? Is it what? So, and at that point, you see, the generation which is there is looking at this differently. The government is saying, yes, we are creating jobs. We want the electricians to go and build. We are building houses. We want you to go and, masonry and all this. But the Gen Z are looking at it differently. They want to be in the, internet space. They want to be in the entertainment space. But the government is not in tandem in what they are looking at. And now, when Gen Z, the first demo was okay. You could see the guys were just walking out with water. There was nothing. But later, other people have come in because of the pressure, stress around there. People don't have anything to eat. So most of them, yes, there are people came in, through pressure from other people, as Mheshimiwa said. But what I'm thinking is, at this level, looks like now the demonstration do not belong to Gen Z anymore. The other people have come. And this is something that the government should be worried. Even the Gen Z themselves, they should be worried because they don't know what will happen in future. Is the time for us to stop? I don't know.
Let's call a spade, engineer. Because you wouldn't expect Gen Zs to organize themselves because they are online. And if at all they were organizing certain kind of approach to their demonstration, I'm so sure we would have all seen it, that they were organizing to bring coffins, organizing to go, looting and all that. When we were covering the first demonstration, the Gen Z were actually policing themselves. That if you are caught snatching a phone, there was an instant justice because that was the general agreement from them. We are going to demonstrate and they're following the law. But what we've seen, it's not the way it is. Question. So what should the government do? When the president spoke about it over the weekend during the roundtable media interview, he spoke about it. Yesterday, CS Kithore also gave a report on that, and he said that the police is now working on that. My question to you, what should the Gen Z do now?
I think
because for them, they're still adamant they will continue their demonstration.
It's important that we look at the issues at hand. And here is it a country we want to destroy, pursuing a small number of criminals who have infiltrated a just cause? Because the just cause is no longer a Gen Z agenda alone. It is an agenda that is now in the hearts of many Kenyans. Because when it comes to issues of accountability, paying taxes, governance, it cuts across. It's just that the Gen Zs have been able to move it from an online agenda to a demonstration or a protest. But in the midst of all that, a small number of criminals or personal interests have captured that process and is trying to destroy it. And in the attempt by government to restore order, many innocent lives are being lost. Property continues to be destroyed. So the question is, who should blink first? Who should be the greater being in this conversation? Should the government give the Gen Zs and the whole country something to show that we as a government, we have listened, and going forward, we are doing the following. So they have called for dialogue. We have had dialogue before, even with the NADCO report and all that. We have had a lot of discussion in this country. So the issue of dialogue may not be something that the Gen Zs and those who are with this cause feel is enough for them. Probably they want something more. And I think, in my opinion, the William administration need to make some radical changes. For example, who failed in this issue? The proposals that were put in the finance bill, they came from the executive. They were presented to Parliament, who failed to scrutinize them. So the issue is the executive the right advisors to continue staying in office? to continue advising the government, the president. Should the president dissolve cabinet for the matter of showing that these advisors misled me, and therefore I want to let them go as a sign that I've listened to you people and I'm ready to make some changes. Probably that will be a sign to show that I have listened to you. Probably also on your side, could you tone down on this issue so that we can have some sense of direction? Otherwise, if we all have this grandstanding of Kithuri coming with statements every day, the government saying they are criminals, we are going to fight, we will never have this issue addressed. And as you said, there is a regional perspective to this matter, there is an international perspective to this matter, and we have to be considered. We have seen some improvement in terms of the economy. We cannot afford to lose the ball at this moment. This is a chance we need to make sure that we salvage the gains we have made over the last 2 years to be able to leapfrog the economy going forward. If we fail now, even our partners, our bilateral partners, our regional neighbors will lose confidence in us, because every 2 years we'll be having this kind of problems. Last year we had chaos. This year we have chaos. Next year we might have chaos if we have another finance bill. So nobody can be able to trust Kenyans as a regional business partner going forward. So government has to consider, is it us or is it them who should give in at the
All right. Wakili, let me read part of the statement which was sent out by CS. It says that the unrest, legitimately initiated as the democratic expression of public disapproval of the Finance Bill 2024, led to the termination of the bill. And it continues to say that notwithstanding the termination of the bill, holders of marauding criminal gangs continue to pose grave danger to the public, riding on unannounced plans for peaceful protests to disturb public order, commit arson, obstruct public transport, and terrorize the people of Kenya with violence. Overall, the police continue to act professionally and with restraint in the management of extremely provocative situation. Finally, part of that, before I let you, he says that upon completion, security agents have been alert to intercept and thwart harm to the public. From this statement, what I'm reading is that the government is not trying to stop the Gen Z from protesting. But what the government is now keen on is to thwart and to crush these marauding gangs who are now infiltrating on these protests. What do you think?
Well, you see, ordinarily in society, any society, the bad is dominant over the good.
Absolutely.
For instance, I think in the budget, in the finance bill, there are good things, many good things. But the clever way of putting one or two things that emotionally were provocative on the populace is what then determined the bill as it did. You didn't have to put hidden issues without explaining to the public. You didn't have to put the things that they did, which then were provocative to the public, especially the Gen Zs and the society. Number two, the reason why communication and the right to information is in the Constitution is exactly what you're experiencing. You have to decode yourself as a leader. You can't hide, no matter the intentions, however good they are. You have to explain yourself. The problem I see with this KK government, and that's the biggest problem it has, when it got in government, it was a know-it-all government. It didn't communicate itself and decode itself to the people. It didn't tie its cause with the cause of the people, or explain to the people that the cause we are in is your cause. So there was a disconnect. It has for long not put a communicator for the public, for the president. When it put one, I think he stutters. He doesn't explain himself to the public with a connection or connecting the government to the public. Suffice it to say, therefore, that then whatever it does mutates into an interpretation, which I'm entitled to, which another person is entitled to. And therefore, if that interpretation coalesces into a national psyche, then there'll be a general national complaint over governance, over the intentions, and over the implementation of the manifesto. Probably even the manifesto is being implemented but phased, being that after completion of 5 years, they'll be able to take stock and say, we say this and we completed. But you must be able to explain yourself. And lastly, in government, on that issue, in government there'll be challenges. you put a manifesto that is good. But remember, and I've said this before here, that a manifesto is a social contract that has no enforcement mechanism whatsoever in law. So I can go to the High Court and say, my client Sossion says you said you're going to tarmac the road to his compound, but you haven't. So you have to tarmac it. You can do that. It's a manifesto is basically a debate on intentions. But then you see the problem is it is the basis upon which we elect you. You tell us there'll be electricity in every house, free education, there'll be no hunger within 6 months. When I put the Bible down, this happens. Suddenly, when you get in, there'll be challenges. Explain yourself. But I want to put it this way. The insertion of Article 1 in the Constitution was probably the magical thing we ever did as Kenyans. Because then we can go back to whoever we've put there, the crown, and ask, these are the things that you said you're going to do. Why haven't you done them? So we can have instant justice in terms of representing ourselves, because Article 1 basically is a friction article in terms of representative democracy. You see, representative democracy connotes that when we appoint people, when we elect people, they will be able to say what we want them to say. But when that voice has been overtaken, there's a dominant voice over it, especially the executive, on account of being the holder of the exchequer and the chairman of the exchequer. Then it means that the beholder of the executive, as we've seen now, when the people have complaints, especially the derivative being the government is not even communicating to the public, it seems to be communicating the representation. And therefore, eventually, it coalesces into a national psyche. It starts with the agencies. They had their own complaint, but on governance, which is a very good thing. We accepted it. You know, we say back home that a wound starts with a pimple.
Can I take a break?
Thank you.
Allow me. We'll be right back with more. I still have got two papers. That is the Standard and the Star newspaper. That is also the front page of these two papers. We'll be taking a look very quickly. But still, the discussion continues, and it's about to get hotter. Stay with me.